Hey everybody, welcome to this week's edition of UGASports Live. My name is Rodney Nabulsi. I'm joined by Dane Young and Jim Donnan. We're a little bit late today because Jim Donnan and Dane Young were playing hooky. They're talking to some buddy of theirs, and I'm the only one sitting here in the studio waiting for them to join us, and they're just screwing around with one friend of theirs. But when you find out who it is, you'll be very pleased. So
we can go ahead and preview. Reese Davis is going to be on this podcast feed later today.
There you
Boom.
go. So
did a good job of analyzing the conference and the national deal and told some good Kirby stories. It's good. I mean, I know our fans look forward to it, and we're going to have another one. Some people have requested Paul Feinbaum, and we're going to have him too. So, and if anybody ever comes up with any ideas about anybody else, we can certainly try to get them. Probably can't get everybody, but we can sure try.
I'm still waiting on Switzer because I just want to turn my mic off and let y'all two go.
Well, this is a G-rated show.
I love it.
He doesn't mean to, but he uses some words sometimes that all of us use, but not on radio and TV.
Well, I will say that just I overheard one of his conversations, and it was salty, but it was very enlightening. So I can't wait to have Switzer on. But I think getting Reese Davis on for the third year in a row is huge. Getting Paul Feinbaum to come on our show is big. And I appreciate you guys knocking that out. And folks, be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, and you can watch those videos, or hit follow on Facebook, and you can watch those. So they had one this morning, one this afternoon. So we got to get started. Coach, it's game week. The season is finally here. I've been waiting to say it's game week for like 9 months. The baby's here. Let's go. It's not an exciting opponent. It's UT Martin, but still there will be football here. We'll be able to, this time next week, we're talking about who did what. We're talking about Brock Bowers this, and we'll be focused on the upcoming game and the previous game, and we'll be overblowing injuries and questioning Mike Bobo's sanity. I'm just so happy it's here.
Yeah, the one thing that I always loved about starting the season is the fact that that's why you do everything. You lift weights, you do all the things to prepare yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, and to play the games. I mean, that's what it's all about. Being in that Sanford Stadium, going to those visiting sites, going down to Florida. I mean, that's why you come to Georgia to play the games. And can't get too caught up as a fan about who the opponents are at home. If you're going to see Georgia, and you're in an era right now that probably most people will never experience. The fact that you're back-to-back national champions, that you haven't lost a home game now, starting on a fifth year. So it's a tremendous experience. The stadium really looks good where they increased the width there of the corridors. I mean, should have better traffic there. It's just a great time to be a dog in a lot of ways. And first of all, I want to make sure that I give just a little tribute to Sonny Siler, a tremendous Georgia icon, a guy that was so good to me, my family. We had a little bit of insight coming in that he, checked me out a little bit when I got the job, and he realized that my son Todd had his own bulldog whose name was Reggie, and he got it his last year at Marshall. And the first thing he said to me, he said, "How you doing, Coach?" He said, "When can I meet Reggie?" I said, "What in the world? This guy's asking me about my own bulldog," who was not necessarily mine, but Todd was still living at home. And we loved Reggie, and unfortunately he passed away when he was here. But the Siler family, all of them, Frank, Swan, Sarah, their kids, everybody, just really mean so much to Georgia. And of course, Uga, I could tell you so many stories about Uga, but I knew where I stood the first trip that we made when I was trying to get alignment where some of our bigger players could sit in first class. And Charlie Whittemore said, well, we can do that, but we got to make sure we have a seat for Uga up there. So, it was important that Uga went first class. He needed that room. So I knew right away where everything was all. But there's a lot of people that have been good to me at Georgia and throughout my life. But Sonny Seiler was just a loyal guy. I had a chance to see him for the last time at Jack Bowerly's deal that they had in April, where they had a tribute to Jack, and Sonny came up for it. And it looked like he was in pretty good health there. I know he's kind of gone downhill the last couple of months, but just sad day. But it's also you rejoice and think about the life he led and how much he contributed to the morale of Georgia with just the fact we got the best damn dog you could ever have to be the best mascot. And he lived and breathed Georgia. I mean, he just loved it every day of his life. And he lived a good life, 90 years. And can't say much more except it's a tough day for all of us knowing that Sonny Seiler won't be at any more of our games, but his memory will certainly be everlasting.
Yeah, the university announced today that they don't have the funeral plans done yet, but Charles Seiler, Uga's handler, will be there on the sideline. Uga will be in the stadium, exactly how Sonny would have wanted it. And I think if this year they're going to go in and try to win one for Devin, win one for Chandler, and win one for Sonny. So it's
I meant to say Charlie. Charles instead of Frank. Frank was actually Sonny's name, but seriously, we'll find out. I know had an unbelievable contingent of Georgia people down there when Cecilia passed away a few years ago, and that's a real fitting tribute to her, his wife. But anyhow, going forward here, Roddy, it is game week, and like I said, you still practicing against each other, but there's a little kick in your giddy up, knowing that you're actually going to get to play a game and not have to go down there and beat each other up. I thought Kirby did a really good job yesterday of portraying the problems that we had with the weather throughout fall camp. Just an unbelievable amount of humidity and heat on these guys, but you still got to work through it. And the one thing that's a saving grace that a lot of people don't take into account is when you build an indoor facility, everybody said, well, you don't have that bad of weather, George, you don't have that much rain. Where it really helps you is that when you have bad weather is one thing, but when it's hot, you can do a lot of drills inside and things to keep your kids fresh and then go outside and condition them. That indoor facilities are really beneficial to get your team ready, and notwithstanding when it's raining or lightning or whatever. But we're going to answer some questions about the team, that's for sure. But I think it was just a little bit different getting your team ready, knowing how to work them, but also withstanding the heat. It was just incredible heat watching these kids go through some of these practices. And I'm telling you, they didn't let up any. You'd have thought they were playing Oregon this week. They practice. So there's no change in that. That's for sure.
Some of the players we spoke to, you could just see the relief in their eyes that it was actually game week, because they literally are tired of hitting each other. And especially when you speak to Cedric Van Pran, he's like, yeah, going up against Nas Stackhouse, and it's not just this camp, but it's been for 4 camps. These guys have been going head to head. They were roommates for the longest time. They're sick of it. They want to go beat up somebody else. And again, we're excited that the season's here, but these guys have been lifting weights for 9 freaking months. They've been running, they've been doing all that exercising. They're ready to go. So there's nothing like game week in Athens. And you can tell the entire town's just energized. There's a different vibe amongst the players. There's a different vibe at Publix. There's a different vibe at the gas station. People are just shaking in their boots because they're excited it's here. Later in the week, we'll see them start clearing out the parking lots. The RVs will be rolling into town. The tailgate stations will be opening up. It's just the atmosphere completely changes. And along with that becomes the casual fans who they know that camp's going on and they're not paying attention, but now the hyper focus is here. And the hyper focus in yesterday's press conference, all the questions were not about UT Martin. The vast majority of them, including some of mine, were about injuries and depth charts and player personnel and who's available and who's not, and who's looking good, who's going to surprise us, all that sort of thing. Since our last show we had last, Georgia's suffered a few injuries. We noticed when we went out there last week, we didn't see Ladd McConkey out there. We saw Dejan Edwards running on the side. He wasn't going through practice. He wasn't in a black jersey, but he obviously wasn't with the other running backs. Where's Kendall Milton? Georgia's so thin at running back. Where's Smile Mondon? One of your leading tacklers from last year. Is he going to be out there? Kamari Lassiter's in a black jersey, the guy who started 15 games at cornerback for you. I won't say panic, but the concern. And again, it would be tenfold if you were playing Oregon or you're playing Oklahoma or you're playing Clemson. Right now, it's a concern, but the folks who haven't been paying attention, they see those names and they start to wonder what the hell is going on, and they get a little worried, Coach.
Well, you sure gave the Johnson & Johnson report there. We need some tape to get all these guys ready. We used to call it the Johnson & Johnson report. We had this one guy that was our trainer up at Marshall, and he was very good and very astute, but he would always say that the guy's PT. And when he said that, we knew the guy had a pretty good chance of playing. What that meant was he was point tender, that his injury at the point of the injury was tender, but he was going to be ready to play. So if he had a PT beside him, we knew it'd be okay. It was a little point tender, but overall it'd be good to play. And I think we got a lot of those guys here that we've been real careful with. And there's no reason to take a chance on a veteran player if he's got some kind of injury that could become a lot more, just lingering type deal. So McConkey has proven what he can do. Kamari has. Milton, hamstrings are really tough on backs. We had Wilder who played a long time in the pros for Tampa Bay at Missouri, and he had one that he came back too quickly on his senior year, and he never was full speed. So I think we've been very careful with Milton, and we know what he can do. Edwards the same way. But with that comes the opportunity for other guys to get practice reps. Guys like Cass Jones, who really, Roddy, I think early on you talked about how good he was out of the back.
That was Dane.
And he definitely, well, whoever said it was good, he is good, but he's also great on special teams, and he can take it to the house. He got good speed. So this team we're playing this week is going to force you to pass a little bit. We're not going to be able to Burma road them. They really gang up on the run, and can present a lot of opportunities to throw the ball because that's their pressure defense. They a lot like Mississippi State, from the standpoint of really the way they pressure the running game. So, but I feel good about the preparation we've had. Listening to Kirby talk about, the issues everybody knows with a new quarterback, a new place kicker. That's always going to be different. But these guys have worked hard, and it's time to go. And I hope that the people that don't go to the game will continue to check in with us on the Watch Along show. So tell us what they got to do there, Dane.
Yeah, we'll have our UGASports Watch Along show. I believe it's our 4th season of doing this. You have us on this YouTube feed or Facebook feed, and have us on your tablet, your phone, your laptop, and then on your primary TV, you have Georgia's game, which in this case is on ESPN Plus. So go ahead, and we'll be ready on the dog vent to help people figure out how to watch the game. But you get Georgia-centric commentary. We know more about the team than the commentators usually do, though Aaron Murray's calling this game as well. And I know he knows Georgia pretty well too. So we're doing the UGASports Watch Along show. It's a fun time. Coach tells a lot of jokes. Elvis enters the building. It's one of my favorite things we get to do.
Yeah, this week I think it'll be a lot more. Not so much about what Georgia needs to do here, what Georgia's doing. I mean, although Coach breaks that down really well. I think a lot of our fascination will be with some of those position battles, some of those new faces, seeing how Georgia handles being without Jalen Carter, seeing how they, who starts opposite Kamari Lasser, who's that other cornerback. It's going to be some fun stuff like that. So there'll be a lot of questions answered and a lot of evaluations done. And that's why I look forward to sitting next to Coach. I've learned so much more about football. I mean, you can play it for years, but when you sit there with the coach all day in and day out and he's explaining it, it's pretty fascinating, which actually brings up one of the first questions I want to get to. I know we have questions that we'll answer towards the end of the show, but we had a very interesting one right off the bat. And I thought this one came from our buddy Dog in France. He sent it to me via Facebook. It says, Coach, what will be the first play of the game for Georgia? I'm assuming Georgia on offense. What will be their first play?
Well, I would say if we win the toss, we're going to defer. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah.
If they win the toss, I don't know if they'll take the ball or not. So that would be a very confident coach on their part if they deferred to the second half. So as far as the first play, we used to have a deal at when we did the women's clinic where we would tell the women what the play was going to be, but they couldn't say anything except to tell their husband right before it happened. Particularly when we're playing against a team that's not very good. But, I would say more than likely, I would say we're going to throw some kind of play action pass and go at the 19 or 84.
I like it. Hey, Dane, give us your first play.
First play for me is going to be Cass Jones for 4. No, that's a joke. Come on. Look, this is why I couldn't be a head coach, because Georgia last season just undefeated, biggest win in bowl history in a national championship game. Because I get bored with things, if I had achieved that, my entire goal this year would be like, how do I get Ladd McConkey to win the Heisman? Just because that's something I haven't done before. But see, that's why I'm not a head coach of a football team and I talk on a show to come up with ideas like that.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty unrealistic because of so many receivers we got. He's definitely one of the best players in the country. One of the things I want to hit today that really hit me up that one of the guys that I was on the show with mentioned about all our all-conference preseason players, which really is a dramatic amount of players. We've talked about that. But among the guys that aren't listed are Small, Munden, and Dominic Lovick, who are two of our top 4 or 5 players, in my opinion. So you add that to it. But of all the people that are preseason SEC, the team that's supposed to be the one that's going to have the best chance to beat us doesn't have one player on all preseason SEC, Tennessee. So to me, even though they got all that hype and they're playing at home and all, who are these players going to be? Who are these star guys? I mean, you got to have a few stars. I mean, Milton certainly got some things, and Brew McCoy, some of these guys, but that's pretty enlightening, don't you guys think? I mean, am I overrating that?
No, because can't you vote the system, the Tennessee system, as all SEC or something? Because that's what we're told.
It's only as good as the players that run it, though.
Yeah,
well, they got a good system, but it definitely hasn't worked for Josh Heupel against Georgia to this point at Missouri or here. So
well, that's because of rain, Coach. Rain stops it.
See, Coach, what you're saying is exactly why I have a little confidence that Kentucky is going to be pretty good this year, because if their offensive line is even, I mean, it can't be much worse than last year. But with Liam Cohen back, I know the receivers at Kentucky are good. I feel good about Kentucky's quarterback. I can point to more things there and be like, that's a unit I feel good about.
Yeah, and of course Missouri's defense, but I'm gonna give you the over/under on the number of wins that Mark Stoops has against Georgia. 0. Is it over or under?
How do you pick under?
Yeah, I was going to pick under, but there's nothing under 0.
You can't go over or under on that one. You can go over, but it is 0.
Can you guys get -1? I mean, come on.
Just had a hard time against us. I mean, sometimes that happens,
I mean, if you go around the SEC, there aren't many wins against Georgia, and especially against Kirby Smart. So hard to find.
Talk about Alabama.
Even before though, he was It was against Coach Rick and their team. I mean, but he has a losing record in the SEC, very much way under 500 in the SEC.
You think Will Muschamp like ribs Kirby about that? All these other coaches didn't beat you, but I did.
He sure did. But anyhow, let's get some more questions, or get to a commercial, or whatever we got.
Yeah, let me mention our friends here real quick at Your Pie. I know we always talk about this. It's Double Points Tuesday, and they have all those great back to school specials going on to try to make it easier for you to get your kids back in school, and to everything is kind of up in the air when you shift out of summer mode into fall mode. But I want to bring up a little bigger picture thing when we talk about Your Pie. There's over 70 locations, and those are all franchisees. When Drew and Natalie French came up with the concept and they built the first one, it was such a success that other people wanted to do it. So they started the franchising the system. So if you want to own your own Your Pie restaurant, and again, I've seen them pop up everywhere, LaGrange, Dahlonega, coming everywhere. They're all over. There's 70 of them. You can do that, and they will help you start to finish on this thing. They will help you with the location. They'll help you with the system. They'll teach you how to do it. So if you really want a successful business, you want to get at what you're doing right now, hit up our friends at Your Pie. Reach out to them. It makes a ton of money. It has a ton of business. One of my best friends in the photography business way back when I was a sports photographer, Bob Rosado, he has 2 of them because there's such a good investment. So reach out to our friends at Your Pie and say, hey, look, I want to learn a little bit more about being a franchisee, and they will help you. So hit them up when you get a chance. Speaking of great places that should maybe franchise out, it would be our friends at Academia Brewing Company. They make great beer. They have great food. I mean, even if they didn't have beer out there, just say if they were selling Yingling and Bud Light or, just Coronas or whatever, that would be a place we'd be saying, look, go out to Academia and eat. It's a great restaurant. If they didn't have food out there, we'd be saying, look, go out to Academia and try their fantastic beers. They have, all the different IPAs, the barley wines, everything you can imagine. And there's a new one coming out just about once a week, it seems. They have trivia nights. They have motorcycle nights. They have car shows. They have live music all the time. This is a great place to go enjoy it. The fact that you have both of them together, you have a great restaurant and a fantastic brewery, an award-winning brewery. It's a no-brainer. So hit up our friends at Academia Brewing Company when you come into town before the game or after. It's actually voted one of the top post and pre-game spots in the entire Athens area. So hit them up.
A lot of chatter about the running back position with injuries. Here's what Kirby Smart had to say about it in his Monday news conference.
I feel good about Andrew Paul. Rod Robinson's had a great camp. Cash has had a good camp. Really got a bunch of guys who've repped and done some good things there. But Dylan, we need Dylan at wideout. We need Dylan on special teams. Dylan has had a really good camp in terms of being a wide receiver. He played that some in high school, so that's something he's done before. But, the way offenses are nowadays, you can get your touches a lot of ways.
Good point.
Talking about Dylan Bell there.
About the different guys that, normally when your first guys are out, you look for other ways. I know last year they looked at Bowers a little bit because of the configuration. He could be a guy that could maybe line up on third down instead of lining up right beside the tackle, move back and come out of the backfield because he knows protection. Same thing with Dylan Bell. I mean, he's got that kind of skill set because of his size. He's just more a larger body receiver that can maybe play back there. I know Muse has some running ability that we're going to see on kick returns that you get a touch with him in different ways. But the general capacity for most people is to talk about what's wrong with the team instead of what's right. And that's certainly an issue when you got those kind of deals at running back, but injury-wise. But hopefully they'll be good because Edwards and Milton hadn't had all those hits that you'd have throughout fall camp. It should be fresh as a daisy. So, of course, that was an unbelievably bad injury to Robinson. Patella tendon gone missing for the whole year because he was really reacting pretty well to that foot surgery he had. He looked like he's going to be able to play earlier than even we thought. So, but when Kirby, he's going to say what he thinks, and he feels good about their athleticism back there, but it's nothing like game reps, and none of these guys that he mentioned have played much. But I know this, on this show last year, I was talking about how good Andrew Paul looked in fall camp in the scrimmages, and then a week before the first game, he gets his knee ACL. He was actually ahead of Robertson last year as far as picking things up, and you saw what kind of year he had the rest of the year when he played so much. But Paul had tremendous figures in high school in a good league, and so we'll be okay there, and they'll get some confidence Saturday.
So
Other
a lot of people
chatters
made.
that,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead, right?
So a lot of people
I was
made a
going to
big
go to the
deal
next clip, but you
talking about Dylan Bell and different Brock Bowers and all these different running backs. I'm like, it would have to be rather extreme circumstances to take a guy, as Coach Smart said, we need him at wide receiver. You need Brock Bowers running as your tight end. But there are times when you have to go pretty deep down the depth chart. And I think back to that Florida game when you just couldn't find a quarterback. You had so many guys injured, and then Stetson gets injured, and then, Dwan's having a rough night, and you're like, can anybody throw it? Can anybody run it? Can anybody punt? We brought 2 punters, and they both got hurt. Kirby Smart practices going to the movies. Do you think he's not going to practice a 5th or 6th or 7th running back or 8th or 9th or 10th wide receiver just in case, because you don't want their first snap to be in a game they've never done it before. So I'm not going to make too much out of it, but it's interesting to know that he sees it. He's playing that 3D underwater chess way down the line.
talk about Georgia's quarterback, Brock Bowers, and what he's seen from Carson Beck.
I feel like he just is playing the game faster and at just a faster pace, I guess. And that's what he needs to be doing to just play quarterback here. So I'm excited to see what he'll do Saturday and this year.
And then I'll add Cedric Van Pran also on Carson Beck.
I think with working with Carson, the biggest thing has just been making sure that we both are seeing things, communicating about it. I think a lot of times on the field, you kind of get into a funk where you may just get caught up in doing your job. And I think it's really important to make sure that you're communicating with the guy behind you, and in his case, in front of you, to make sure that you're both kind of seeing things, really familiar with each other, came in together.
What does that mean, Coach, when he's talking about the communication?
I like the fact that Van Pran has so much experience, and the middle of your attack is where most of the decisions are made. Quarterback calling the different checks based on the perimeter, and the center helping you for your protection, identifying which way you're going to slide the protection or who's going to be doing a double read or whatever it might be. So you've got a lot of experience there, practice experience working together with Beck and Van Pran, not game experience. But the one thing that I would say without going overboard here is, and we've heard Kirby use the word volume, the amount of volume that our team uses is for twofold here. One, to get them ready for what they're going to see and take a little bit away and add a little bit throughout the season, offensively and defensively, but prepare you for the year to give you an idea of what all the different kind of looks you're going to get defensively as an offensive team, and conversely, defense, seeing all the different motions, shifts, personnel groupings. And that's where I think Beck has a really big advantage. All the game reps are one thing, but the practice reps that he's had here over the last 4 years really helped our defense as much as our offense, because we were able to go out there and run all that stuff that Stetson ran in practice against our defense to get them ready, that maybe those other two are learning how to do. But now that we're focusing in on what just Georgia does and our stuff, I think both these guys will do well running that stuff too. So Beck definitely has a good feel for the volume of stuff we got, and it's, as we've said several times, there's a real good feeling about knowing you the man and knowing that your coach has picked you, and we'll see how it rolls out there on Saturday.
I like that when Kirby was asked about, hey, how do you feel about the practice, the injury reports and stuff like that, he said, look, I have nothing to hide. If you ask me, I'll tell you. Now, he doesn't volunteer information. You have to gotten it from somewhere else, but you can ask Kirby and he'll tell you. So he's not putting a lot out there, but if we find something out, hey, we heard this so-and-so was hurt, or this guy was getting reps here, he'll tell you about what's going on. One of the questions to him was about how does having Cedric Van Pran in front of Carson Beck really help Carson Beck? Got such an experienced guy out there, and he will tell you if your question is dumb, or he will tell you if it's misguided, or he will explain to you what's going wrong. And so sometimes I ask him just general football questions to help understand things. But that question, he's like, it's not going to help Carson that much because Carson is good at reading coverages. He's good at seeing where it needs to go. It's not like I think he took the question as, Cedric Van Pran is leading Carson and helping him out. He's like, no, Carson's pretty damn good at what he does. It's okay. He won't be leaning on him. Cedric Van Pran will be keeping him from getting killed. And, they can agree on a lot of that stuff. But I thought it was a huge vote of confidence from Kirby on Carson about his skill set out there and his analysis and his protocols when he goes up to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, he won't take a back seat to anybody in the country as far as knowledge of the system. He's got a tremendous knowledge.
Another guy that got to get behind the microphone was Tyke Smith, and he spoke on his special relationship with Javon Bullard.
With last year, just going into this year, me and him got a real strong bond, kind of seeing stuff the same, and then being on the same page without necessarily like communicating. Bands, though we both played the star position, both had safety reps. So kind of knowing what's expected.
Helps in the secondary when they're cross-trained like that, Coach.
Sure does. And I'm pulling hard for all our players, but particularly Tyke, a guy that made All-American at West Virginia as a sophomore, playing a different role, a different type of defense. And he transferred to Georgia along with his defense's backfield coach who came here too. And then was looking good, moved into a different style, and he was learning how to play man more, and then he hurt his knee, but then came back last year and really wasn't ready when fall camp started, and they put Bullard in there at star and just couldn't replace him, but he couldn't beat him out, but he got to play a lot. But now with Bullard back at safety, he's playing the nickel back, Tyke is, and pulling hard for him to have a big year because he sacrificed a lot leaving a team to come here, and hopefully he'll be able to get a lot of playing time and really help our team win.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I always pull for the guys like, last year it was Rob Beal, the guy who waited his turn. Carson Beck could have transferred multiple times, year 4 for him. Guys that pass on the NFL and come back. But Tyke, anybody coming back from injury, especially that has all that rehab and stuff and all the work they have to do, you always root for them. So it's like, I want to see Andrew Paul take it into the end zone and Tyke Smith get interception and Carson Beck throw 4 touchdowns. It's just it's the feel-good stories. And so while we're in the business, we want to share those stories. We want to see them, and we want to see that validation and that reward for those guys. So I think everybody in the stadium, when Tyke Smith has a big hit or a big play, you got to root a little extra, cheer a little harder for Tyke Smith than you say just about anybody else out there.
These interviews are in full on our UGA Sports YouTube page, the most popular Georgia Bulldogs channel on that site. We'll wrap it up with Kirby Smart saying what he's excited about for this team.
I'm very excited about, like, every day you go to work with this group, they're fun to be around because they actually listen to what you say and they try to do it like you say it. And that's important. I mean, who you are intangibly is really important.
That's one of my favorite quotes from Kirby Smart. I like them because they listen.
Yeah, I mean, that's really a big point.
It is.
Because, you get to a point where all of us have heard something 1,000 times and you think, you've got it down and all that. But just the fact that we've said it over and over, this is a new team. And even though you've heard it before, you need to open up your channels and make sure that everything you're getting from your coach, you're taking it to the field and everything. Sometimes, well, I've heard that before and all that. Sometimes when I go speak to a group of athletes, I remind them, I said, when I was in high school, we used to have speakers come all the time, and they would talk to us, and I would say, oh, here's another guy and all that. But this one guy said, I don't care how many times you've heard people, you need to listen to me, because I'm going to tell you the way it is. And he got my attention by saying that, because I pretty much had figured out he was going to give me the same old winning for the Gipper type talk that our high school coach had us listen to. But that's the point that I always talk to every team about. Number one, are you coachable? You know what that means? When the coach tells you something, you don't have a barrier, you don't have any kind of resistance to it, you're going to do it. You don't question the coach. Number two, can you concentrate? That means you listen to what he says and you remember it. The reason people forget things is they never learned it in the first place. They didn't listen long enough. They're looking at their phone, they're doing whatever, and they don't listen. So good job, Kirby. Maybe you listened to me back in the day when I told you, hey, you gotta comprehend it. So are you coachable? Can you concentrate? If you can do both of those, you can learn a lot of stuff.
And we still hear them talk about our guys being coachable or not. Speaking of being coachable, I want to coach all of our friends to check out our myperfectfranchise.net. If you're trying to change your life trajectory, you're trying to come up with something better than you had before. You're trying to get out of the rat race. You're just trying to improve your revenue flow, your quality of life. Reach out to Andy Ludecky. He's a coach. He can talk to you. He can explain how to get through the whole franchising process and what's the right franchise for you. He's done this with tons of people, and it doesn't cost you anything. So you get free coaching. And if you're listening, he will tell you all the steps you need to go through, how to finance it, how to pull it all together, and how to be successful in it. He is living proof. He is a number of franchises that he started, and once he realized how easy it is and how to get the right franchise for the right person, he said, look, I'm just going to kind of do this for a living. So reach out to My Perfect Franchise, Andy Ludecky, and he will take great care of you and get it done. So hit him up anytime. Also want to mention our friends at Athens Ford, huge sponsors of this show. They've sponsored our Watch Along show. They've sponsored our website. Right now, remember during COVID, we're saying, hey, look, they got 213 vehicles in the lot. They got 641 now. And they'll have up to 1,000, more. Plus, they're the ownership of Athens Ford. They can reach out to other lots and get you stuff on yours. Right now, they're helping out the Players Lounge, which is helping out some of the players on the Georgia football team. The folks out at Athens Ford have a ton of vehicles. They have a ton of pride. They are the Athens location. They've provided vehicles for the parades that Georgia's had through the town. There's not bigger Georgia fans in the universe than the folks out at Athens Ford, and you need to reach out to them when you get the chance and support those who support the team. And I also want to mention our friends at Dead Soxy. Hey, look, it's Tuesday. The game is coming. You need your new socks. Okay, you need to order them today. Order them, or maybe Wednesday, but you need them before Saturday. So get the Georgia socks. Get the red, the black, the little Herschel looking one. The ones that have the Georgia logo, the state of Georgia logo with a little star in it for where Athens is. The red and black stripes. They have them all. They're incredibly comfortable. They're not going to make you sweat. They're going to stay up, and you're going to look good come 6 o'clock on Saturday. Plus, you'll have them for the whole season. They've been sponsors of this show for 2 years. Georgia's won back-to-back national titles. Don't screw with the streak. Get our friends at at
all of them,
and use promo code UGASports to get 25% off.
Wear your Dead Soxy on the way to your pie and your Athens Ford. We got it. Sounds good to me. Let's get to questions from UGAsports.com. First one, Coach. I had a couple about Jordan Hall. Will not be hunted 23. Coach, by season's end, how much of a presence could Jordan Hall produce along that defensive front?
He's going to have one at 6 o'clock Saturday night. I'm not going to have to wait long to see 44 out there. I can tell you that. The guy's got a presence about him. He's just he's got a lot of potential, but he's already ready for in several ways. I'm just going to give you a little preview of what we just talked about with Reese Davis about Georgia and everything. He said people were talking about, Jalen Carter and guys we don't have. He said, I was on the sideline at the Tennessee game, and I was watching Stackhouse jack that Tennessee defense up. And I thought that's pretty good that, he brought out, which we already know. You talk about who you lost, and certainly Carter's a tremendous loss, but I like our defensive front. These different groupings around the country that people have as list of number one, O-line, D-line, DBs, all that. There was one group that had Georgia's D-line, linebackers, and secondary rated as a top grouping in each of all three. And I agree that our D-line is prominent, maybe not quite as experienced, but, Michael Williams, he can walk in any place in America and play. Stackhouse can. Logue has the same kind of capacity. Hall's one of the best young players in America. So, and then you add guys like Chambliss that just can't wait to gnaw on somebody. He's probably over there right now looking in the mirror thinking about how he's going to get after somebody. I mean, he's my type of player. I mean, we got really good kids on our defense that they're a little bit unknown somewhat, like Bill was, that are going to go out there and strike you. And then you got those two safeties back there, both of them heat-seeking missiles, 24 and 22. I mean, and then you got 23 in the middle there playing star. Corner, we're good. Linebacker, one of our best players, Munden, not even mentioned on all these all-conference teams. He's one of the top players on our team.
Jay asked about some young defenders, and Coach, specifically that second corner spot. I've heard 2 or 3 names that stepped up in the last couple of weeks to be in position to play some there.
Yeah, I mean, number 4, he can play without question. He had a little bit of an injury, but I think he's going to be right there. We've got, of course, we got Green, Humphrey, Everett. All 3 can play at corner. We've got a better situation as far as corner depth. Maybe not a guy like Ringo, but we got good depth there. And, of course, Lassiter has only played 15 games as a starter, but he's got a lot of reps out there. And the really thing that makes me sleep better as somebody that worries about something, we got Kirby Smart and Will Muschamp and Fran coaching these guys. I mean, that's an all-star group of secondary coaches. Fran Brown has come in and done a great job on technique, but you can't get any better coaching than those 3 guys. I mean, every step they take is monitored. Every GPS look that they do physically is monitored. These guys don't take bad steps. They don't take bad angles. And if they take one, but watch out, your ass is going to get chimed up. So I just feel like supreme coaching. And we got good coaching all around on our team, but you got 2 guys that have won national championships at different places. Coach Smart at Alabama, Coach Muschamp at LSU. Really, you just can't quantify that.
Okay.
I got to be careful about going overboard, but I love to see you guys coached.
From DMUGA, curious if the new clock rules are going to favor run-oriented offense and limit opportunities for passing-oriented teams.
Absolutely, they're going to help you. Just because you can keep the clock running and keep the other – if you make first downs and you're not as good as the other team, you can keep them off the field. But you got to make the first downs and you got to make progress and all. But I guess the analytics say that there's going to be 4 to 5 less plays per team based on this. But the overriding thing to me is going to be if you're behind against a good team and you're not very capable of making some big plays, how are you going to catch up against them? Time's going to run out for you. So it's definitely going to be a difference maker now. To how much, I don't know, but the length of the game, that's what they're talking about. Uh, saw the other day that rule about the timeouts. You can't take 2 consecutive timeouts. UTEP had a guy that wasn't out on the field, and then they didn't get it straight, and they called the second timeout, got a 5-yard penalty. I mean, that's got to really chap UTEP's butt, but that's the way it goes.
From I've been good, I've heard mistakes that players make when they get too amped up. Does the same happen for coaches? And if so, how do you calm them down?
Coaches get too amped up?
Do coaches get too amped up and make mistakes is the question.
Oh, we don't have time enough to tell you all the mistakes I've made over the years, but one thing that I always felt like the players are going to kind of exude the confidence that you show or take the other way if you show panic. So I always tried to be as close to even keel as I could during the games. And most of the stuff preparation wise, you maybe get a little more excited, but you've got people out there, hopefully they're going to help you in the press box. Everybody's got a role, what their job is. And it's just not the head coach making decisions. Ultimately, you got to make them. Coordinators got to make them and all that. But the best coaches that I've ever been around are the even keel guys that don't get too high and don't get too low. And I think Kirby may be a little bit more excitable early on because that's just his demeanor. But, he still makes a lot of good decisions. That decision he made against Ohio State on the timeout, probably the biggest ever made in Georgia history.
We'll wrap with a pair of questions from Bush Dog. Says, I know it's game week with football, but with John Isner's retirement, I'm curious, Coach, do you have any good stories about John Isner?
Well, I congratulate John on a brilliant career. I mean, you would have never thought, based on his college play, even though he played tremendous here, I never thought he would be the singles player that he did, but he amped up his overall game to go with his serve and made a lot of money and has been a damn good dog the way he represents us in so many ways. Coach McGill used to always call anybody that hit a big serve, Big Bertha, Bertha. He called it, hit that Big Bertha. And John was going to hit Big Bertha whether Coach McGill told him to or not, but when he would hit it and hit an ace, he said, he did exactly what I told him to. He hit that Big Bertha. And Coach McGill loved that. And John always loved to come back and see Coach McGill. And just like all the players do, I miss Coach McGill. He was just unbelievable the way he was just Mr. Bulldog, no question. But John, great ambassador for us. And hopefully our test team is going to be able to overcome some of the things that have happened to us here. We lost 3 of our best players before the season even started. Quinn went pro, who won the NCAA last year. Mickelson, however you pronounce it, our number 1 recruit, decided to go pro. And the kid we got from Peru, who was coming in here, was having trouble getting his green card to get across the border. So Coach Manny Diaz is going to have to do some heeing and sheeing here and hopefully get some transfers in January.
All right, let's wrap where we started. Bush Dog has a question about running backs. What do you think that rotation looks like for this first game?
It's going to be musical chairs. You're going to see a lot of guys out there. I say we play at least 7 running backs Saturday because not just because who we're playing against that we should be winning, but I want to see some of these other guys, going down there. If Milton can play, that's one thing. If Edwards can play. But after that, you're going to see Paul, Roderick Robinson, Whitehead, Cash Jones, number 20. What's his name, Roddy?
Savon Clark.
Yeah, Clark. So that's about 7, isn't it?
I wasn't paying attention.
I mean, if Bowers is back there, that could be 8.
Yeah,
if McConkey were to line up in motion.
Hughes, Kirby's son, Andrew. Watch Andrew. He might run out there and try to get a few reps.
Yeah, I'm just saying the right side of the line are all preseason SEC guys, as voted on by the coaches. So, and I know sometimes people putting the coaches' votes in for them, but I think I'd be willing to take a handoff to the right side behind Tate Ratledge and Marius Mims. I'm willing to go take my chance with those guys. And Brock Bowers on the edge and Cedric Van Pran in the middle. Yeah, you'll be fine.
When you go out on there and sit in the stadium and you got your binoculars or whatever you got, don't just look at the cheerleaders and the majorettes and all that, man. Look up, Roddy. Look at the size of our offensive line. I mean, it's incredible. Tackle to tackle is just incredible. But I'm looking forward to Saturday. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I hope that you'll check these extra deals that we got. I hope you like them. We're going to have another one with Paul Feinbaum, who's been on several years. So go Dogs.
All right, folks, that's all the time we have for this week's show. Be sure to check out the earlier interview we had with Reese Davis. And we're into the show now so that these two guys can go talk to Paul Feinbaum. So be sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and tune in next Tuesday. We'll be talking the Georgia football's previous game and looking ahead to the next one. See you next week.